Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 was finally shown at WWDC 2026 2 weeks ago, and Apple is finally getting things right, and very early on too. Apple's focusing on bug fixes, stability, and improvements in iOS 27, and it's astounding to see and makes me very hopeful and confident once again that Apple will be able to deliver the best with iOS 27. In this video, we'll talk about the latest Apple news, some new features, and the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page, where at the time of this video, there's over 17,000 votes and 195 comments. I've gone through all the comments to determine what the update is like for most of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, Apple Music this week announced the top 20 most streamed artists in collaboration with Chart Data. They posted the top 20 on X with pretty much everyone you would expect. So if you wanted to check it out, you can see it here, again posted on X. Now, Apple's older A12 and A13 CPUs seem to have a security issue that may not be able to be patched. Paradigm Shift, who is a security research firm, has found a boot ROM vulnerability that, if exploited, allows the device to boot unsigned software without verification and lowers the overall security settings. The issue seems to be related to a USB controller on the chip, but the good news is it doesn't open the overall secure enclave that stores most of the sensitive data. We'll have to wait and see if Apple will attempt to patch this or not, or even be able to in the future. Brazil is the next to gain access to third-party app stores and payments through third-party platforms. Apple announced the change the other day. You can see it on their developer site as far as what's new, app distribution, and other options as well. So this is an agreement with Brazil, and it should be available now. So this is something I would like to see rolled out worldwide, where we'll have third-party app stores in the USA, but it looks like it's only the EU, Brazil, and some other places at this point. With watchOS 27, Apple dropped support for a surprising amount of devices, including Apple Watch Ultra 1. Recently, Apple actually gave an answer to why to TechRadar. They said, with every software release across every single one of our platforms, we always want to ensure that you have the best experience, so we make power and performance a priority. The great new features in watchOS, including the capability of Siri AI and the new tap gesture, work best with the processing power that is in the Apple Watch Series 9 and later, Ultra 2 and later, and SE 3. So unfortunately, it seems that this is something that Apple has determined is only going to work well on those devices, and they want Siri to work consistently across those devices, so we're not going to see the updates on the Ultra 1 or other devices. Unfortunately, it seems the price of Apple hardware will be going up soon due to the increasing price of memory. Tim Cook spoke with the Wall Street Journal and has said that Apple won't be able to absorb the increased prices and will have to pass them on to consumers. This could affect the iPhone 18 prices. He didn't say that for sure, but of course will affect things such as future Macs and more, but at this point we don't have a set time frame, but we're seeing this across the industry. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention is there's a new activity challenge coming to Apple Watch starting on June 21st for the International Day of Yoga. You can earn the award by practicing yoga for 10 minutes or more, and you'll see the update here where you've got different awards you can earn. Mac Rumors posted them, of course, and you can see what they look like. So if you want to earn those on June 21st, practice 10 minutes of yoga or more, or do a workout of 10 minutes or more with yoga. Now, as far as new features, there's actually more to talk about with iOS 27. The first one has to do with Siri. If we go into the new Siri app, so I have it here, within Siri, if maybe we go to the outdoor temperature and you can see the response from Siri, we can actually slide this over and get more options. So we can share it, we can mute it. It says it's 73 Fahrenheit right now. This was the other day. And then we have additional options for copying it, looks good, or something isn't right, so we can report that. So again, you could share this as well. So that option is available within the Siri app when it responds to you. To go along with Siri, if you're using the new Siri and you have a newer iPhone, such as the iPhone 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, and iPhone Air, you'll have the option for advanced dictation. However, it's not enabled by default. So what that means is if you have one of the latest phones, you'll also have this option, Expressive Voices Preview. But if you go into your settings, go to General, scroll down to where we have Keyboard, scroll down a little bit further, you'll see a new option for Advanced Dictation Preview. If you want to try that out, you'll need to enable it, and it says an early preview with even more accurate dictation and automatic punctuation powered by a new on-device model. Just be aware that when you're using this, dictation does seem to be a little bit slower for now, but it is in beta and very early. Now when we go into Find My, there's an update here. If you go to try and locate maybe your AirPods Pro 3, this overall interface is a little bit different. The colors are a little bit different. You'll see it says here, and this is what it looks like. So it's actually giving haptic feedback. As I bring this away, I can feel it sort of vibrate, and then it's telling me that they're nearby. If I bring it close, it stops and says that it's here. So the interface is just slightly different this time. If we go into Apple Maps, there's an update here. When you begin navigation and you go to look at your turn-by-turn list, if you want to see all of the different directions, it actually looks a little bit different now. So you have your time of arrival down at the bottom, how far it is, and then all of your turn-by-turn directions. Within Analytics and Improvements, it gets a little bit of an update, so we have additional options here, and if we scroll to the bottom, we have a new option for View Analytics Logs. If we go into the Health app and we go under HRV, you can actually see we have more information now. It looked a little different before where it was just basically a bar graph, and you can see that here with iOS 26.6, so they've just updated it with more data. Depending on your carrier, if you go into Cellular Options, if we scroll down, you can actually see that your cellular carrier can then put their app here directly into your cellular options if it's available. So again, the carrier has to support this, but it's for easier access. If we go into the Files app and then we tap to rename a folder here, it can give suggestions based on what's contained within the folder. So it says from content, product updates, or maybe Zollotech product photos. So I just have it as images, and that's pretty accurate. Within Notes, if we want to collaborate with someone, Apple has updated the interface. So if we go to share this note here, we can switch from send a copy to share a link, and then people you choose can edit, and you'll see this option here. So side by side with iOS 26 on the left, iOS 27 on the right, it looks a little bit better. And again, new participants can edit, view and download only, and it's a little bit clearer as far as the overall options go. If we go in Photos and maybe we want to edit or clean up the photo, this is sort of my workstation during WWDC. If we go in here, give it just a moment, we'll go into our editing options for cleanup in our tools, and within cleanup we have additional options. So again, it has to prepare cleaning up, and we'll give it just a moment. So at the top, you'll see we have an option for auto, fast, or high quality. So high quality is probably what you want the most, but let's see if we can get rid of this cup here entirely and see if it just removes it and what it looks like. So it's taking a moment to clean everything up, and maybe that's why there's the option, depending on the processor you have as well. So it sort of got rid of the cup. It's not that great, but it did sort of rebuild what was behind it. But it needs another round to try and correct this and make it a little bit better. So we'll reset here and bring it back. If we have a pass, maybe with a QR code to a gym or maybe a club or something else that we're going to be attending an event with soon, if we take a screenshot of that, then go into the screenshot, it will now give you the option to add a pass to wallet. If we go and tap Add Pass to Wallet, it says Loading Pass Details, and then opens it up with App Store and iTunes and creates that pass for you. So you can edit it or add it to your wallet. As far as apps this week, WhatsApp may soon have a new feature to let you send a message and only allow it to be viewed once. WA Beta Info says WhatsApp is working on the feature, and you would be able to type out a text message and then select an option to send as view once. They gave an example of this, what it looks like, where you would have the send as view once option here. And once you send it as view once, the user that receives it would no longer be able to copy, forward, or share that message. So that's something that we could see very soon. Also, if you use Outlook for your email, it was updated a few days ago and now has liquid glass throughout the app. So that's something that's been updated, and if you haven't updated already, I would definitely recommend it. When it comes to releases this week, Apple pushed out a new firmware update, 8B41, to the public. This is not the beta for iOS 27. If you're on the iOS 27 AirPods update, that's a newer version. You wouldn't see this, but 8B41 is available for AirPods Pro 2 and AirPods Pro 3. Also, they pushed out an update to Beats Studio Buds. If we slide over here, you'll see that it says Beats Firmware Update 1B211, and it was actually to fix a Bluetooth-related security vulnerability. They said specifically an attacker within Bluetooth range may be able to listen through the microphone of a device which is not yet paired and actively seeking pair requests. So they've patched that with this update. So you can see that here, and it's available now, and it updates just like AirPods does altogether. And again, it says Beats Studio Buds. As far as other updates, well, we did get iOS 26.6 Beta 2. Pretty much not very interesting as far as features or anything else, but we do expect iOS 26.5.2. So that could be coming very soon. MacRumors is seeing it in their analytics, and I would expect it probably sometime this coming week or possibly the following week. Also this week, I would expect iOS 27 Beta 2 probably on Monday, June 22nd. That's typically what we see year over year. And then, of course, iOS 27's public beta sometime in July. Of course, this week we could also see iOS 26.6 Beta 3, and it could be a very busy week for updates. Of course, we'll have all of the different updates and betas throughout the summer, and then a public release of iOS 27 in September, usually around the iPhone 18 launch. When it comes to the iPhone 17 Pro, I continue to use the 17 Pro Max as my main device, and it seems they're selling more and more of these. We keep seeing different records they've broken this time around, and it seems that the devices are very popular. So I'm curious if you have upgraded, if you're waiting for the iPhone 18, or what device you're using. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Now, when it comes to the overall experience, first let's take a look at AirPods. Now with AirPods Pro 3, I've been using them quite a bit lately. I used them just before this video. I was watching YouTube videos, doing notes, things like that, and I've had 0 disconnects. That's on a public version of macOS Tahoe, and I've been using them with iOS 27 Beta 1 with 0 issues whatsoever. I'm also using them with Vision Pro regularly, with the beta updates, and again, no issues whatsoever. So I'm pretty happy to see that. For an early beta, again, things are staying quite connected. When it comes to the iOS 27 Beta 1 experience, I think it's pretty remarkable for the first beta. It's the best we've had in a very long time as far as stability. It doesn't mean there's not issues, and I think the number one concern I'm seeing from you in the comments is that it's still indexing. Mine actually took 7 days to finish. I do have this setup talk to Siri bug that it won't go away, and I try and set it up, it just won't go away, but the overall experience with indexing once it finishes actually seems to be much better. So that's something that can take some time. I would love to see a status bar there, and it looks like there is a way to actually check the status with a Mac, and maybe I'll make a separate video about that. Also, the Siri waiting list can take some time, especially if you didn't get in right away and then sort of join right away. For some people, it's still going. There we go. That was a little slow for some reason. So let's go back. And most of the time, the update's quite good. Occasionally, you get these hiccups, but in general, it seems to be very good. So just give it some time. If you didn't sign up right away, you'll get in eventually, and hopefully with Beta 2, indexing will give us a status, or it just won't take as long. Now, the overall experience is great. Apple did an incredible job and listened to pretty much all of the complaints. Things like the wallpaper bug are at least fixed for me. So if we pull down and take a look at the wallpaper, slide back up, it stays nice and vibrant for the most part. Maybe not 100%, but it's much better than it was before, and there's no jump in vibrancy this time. Generally, the update is smooth, so if we unlock and then I swipe up, the only time it's not smooth is maybe first thing in the morning. I'll unlock it and swipe it, and sometimes it's a little bit stuttery, like it's still waking up, just like I am. So that's something I see from time to time, but apps open nice and fast. The overall experience is great, and Wi-Fi seems to be one of the issues, though. So many people are saying Wi-Fi is disconnecting. I'm seeing this as well, typically in the morning, where Wi-Fi will just be disconnected, even though it's enabled in the control center. So this is a bug that definitely needs to be fixed, but again, it's an early beta, and I think that's pretty minor considering what we've had in iOS 26 and previous updates. Apple CarPlay is no longer fixed for me. However, this could be my car, as I've had issues with Android Auto also. I tried them back and forth. I'm getting regular disconnects this time around. So CarPlay was slow just to begin with iOS 27, but it just seems to disconnect about every 5 minutes or more. So at this point, it's been a bug. I saw this with Android Auto. It disconnected 4 times in 20 minutes, and I'm seeing the same with iPhone. So it's definitely still an issue for me. As for Siri, it's much better than it was before, but it's not perfect. So it can't identify the device we're on, but it does seem to work pretty well, but using it in CarPlay can be very slow. I've also had to restart the phone a couple times this week as it just got a little bit laggy, and then restarting seems to fix it. But for the most part, it's been pretty good. But generally, Siri seems to be pretty good. It understands multiple requests at once and just works as expected. Even if there's a HomePod nearby, it knows that this is closer now and seems to respond better. Another issue many people mention is there's a keyboard bug where sometimes it doesn't show up. I had this in the first week of use. It seems to be working okay now. So if we go in here, let's get out of this. If we go back out, go back in here, you'll see the keyboard works fine. Sometimes it's unresponsive for others, and it just seems to be a little bit problematic. But again, it requires a restart, but it's much better than we've seen before. Also, Messages sometimes loads without any screen. It will load to a black screen and then take a few minutes to sort of update and then work properly. Many people in the previous update that I talked about had issues such as the camera freezing, VoiceOver can crash for some, also iPhone mirroring doesn't work, also screenshots work, but editing them oftentimes doesn't work properly, so if we maybe want to crop this here, save it, Save it to photos, it doesn't save properly. So this is the one I just tried to crop. It didn't work properly. That's something we're seeing, again, fairly minor, and there's a long list of bugs that Apple has provided in their notes. So just keep that in mind if we go into their public-facing release notes. So in those notes, you'll see that there's a long list of known issues. So there's some new features. Again, if we keep going down, there's known issues with the camera where portrait mode blur effect might render incorrectly for photos, and on and on. So just keep in mind it's a work in progress, but again, much, much better than it was before. And it seems like it's more stable as well for the most part, but occasionally requires a restart, but still fairly stable compared to what we've seen in the past. When it comes to iOS 26.6 Beta 2, well, the funny thing is a lot of people are not using it, but those who are basically saying everything is positive. So we're seeing what we saw with iOS 18 before iOS 27 Beta 1 came out. It seems they've fixed most of the bugs, and iOS 26.6 Beta 2 is quite good, including battery life, stability, performance, and everything else. Of course, iOS 26.5.1 and iOS 26.5 are the current public releases and are still a bit buggy. It depends who you ask, but after over a month of usage, many people still have the same issues: slowness, some stuttering, all sorts of issues throughout. Hopefully iOS 26.6 fixes that, and then we move on to iOS 27, where all of those bugs go away, hopefully, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, there's still some holdouts, those using iOS 18, and they're happy using iOS 18. So if you don't need the latest features, you'd rather have stability and battery life, well, you can stay there as long as there's security updates. So I'm glad to see some people are happy with it. However, I like to have the latest features, so at that point I would upgrade, but it just depends on what your needs are. When it comes to heat and thermals, iOS 27 Beta 1 is definitely a little bit warm. It's still processing, but when it was indexing, it was much warmer. So again, I expect this sort of behavior with an early beta, but iOS 26.6 Beta 2 seems to have fixed all that, and this phone is ambient temperature, cool to the touch. But let's go ahead and run benchmarks and see how it does as far as the thermals. So with iOS 27 Beta 1 on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, we're at about almost 39 degrees Celsius here, and then iOS 26.6 Beta 2, again on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, is just about 35 degrees Celsius. So they're doing the exact same task, but it's maintaining the heat a little bit better. Now let's wait for this to finish and we'll take a look at benchmarks. Benchmarks completed, and they're very similar. However, I've seen higher benchmarks on iOS 26.6 before, but you'll see 3,867 for single core on 26.6 Beta 2 compared to 3,725 on iOS 27 Beta 1. Again, multi-core 9,803 on 26.6 Beta 2 and 9,842 on iOS 27 Beta 1. So pretty good overall, well within the margin of error. We've typically seen over 10,000 though when we're using it normally. So it looks like it's doing just like we would expect and performing like we would expect. Now, as far as overall battery life, let's go ahead and take a look. I've been using iOS 27 Beta 1 full-time on my main device here. If we take a look at battery health, I'm at 100% with 112 cycles. And if we take a look at battery life, we'll give it just a moment to load here. You'll see if we go to view all battery usage, yesterday I had 2 hours and 40 minutes of screen active time, 2 hours and 4 minutes of screen idle time, and used 64% of the battery. Today, 1 hour and 38 minutes. So it's not great, but if we go back maybe a week, it was using much more power for the same amount of time. So it looks like it's getting better progressively after it stopped indexing. So again, not great battery life, but definitely okay at this point for an early beta. If you want the best battery life, iOS 26.6 seems to have that for most people. But not enough of you are using it, so I don't have any battery statistics, and 26.5 and 26.5.1 seem to be just okay. But here's a few from different people that have shared them, and you can see what their battery's like across all the different versions. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 27 Beta 1, that really depends on what matters most to you. If you want a stable phone that has great performance and great battery life, definitely do not install iOS 27 Beta 1 at this point. Wait until at least the public beta, or more likely the public release, when they work out most of the bugs. However, iOS 26.6 Beta 2 seems to be very stable for many people. So if you wanted to try something, you could do that, but just keep in mind they are betas, they will have bugs, and if you want to downgrade, you'll need a computer to do that. So make sure you have a backup. Now, as far as performance here, performance seems to be pretty good. In fact, on the iPhone 11, I'm running iOS 27 here. And if we scroll, you'll see it's pretty fast. Of course, we don't have ProMotion on this device, but ProMotion seems to be behaving like you would expect. 90 Hertz at some times, 120 depending on what you're doing. That's how Apple designed it, so that's normal. But swiping back home is very smooth, even on iPhone 11. It seems like it's sort of breathed new life into these older devices. Going into apps is pretty fast. iPhone 11 versus iPhone 17 Pro Max. And if we go maybe into podcasts here, same thing. You'll see it opens pretty quickly considering it's an old phone. So I'm pretty impressed with that overall. Now, as far as what you had to say, let's take a look at some of your comments. Don Phillips 4635 said, iOS 27 Beta 1 since the day it released and no problems. Finishing up day 10 of indexing though. Astro James 111 said, I'm currently running iOS 27 Beta 1 on my iPhone 16, 99% battery health, and honestly the battery life has been surprisingly good. Yesterday, I spent around 14 hours on my phone and only used 68% of the battery. After the initial indexing period finished, about 5 days after updating, battery performance noticeably improved. I also received Siri AI about 2 days ago, and the overall experience has been great so far. There are still a few bugs, which is expected for a beta. I've had the settings app crash a couple of times while browsing through the different options, but nothing major. Overall, I've been really impressed with the stability and battery life for a first beta, excited for beta 2. Nathaniel Hall 997 said, I'm on iOS 27 Developer Beta 1 on my iPhone 15 Pro. It works very well. Battery life is amazing and improved. My iPhone 15 Pro finished indexing, but I'm still on the wait list to try out the new Siri. CS-SWC said, 16 Pro Max on iOS 27 Beta 1, and it's years ahead of iOS 26 in terms of performance. They definitely have done much more refinement over everything else. Even battery is much better than iOS 26.5.1 and 26.6. The insane thing is the indexing is still not done. Though I will say that one thing they are not efficient with is their new Siri Waitlist. I've been stuck for a week and I know people that have been completely stuck for a lot longer, like 11 days. That's my only problem with this update. No bugs, so far so good. K.I. Knudsen says, iOS 27 Beta 1 has been great on my iPhone 17 Pro. Very stable and smooth, battery life is good. With iOS 26.5.1 and iOS 26.5, it still needs a lot of work, and I know a lot of people are just looking forward to the next update to bring them stability. And that's probably going to be iOS 26.6. It seems quite good, and many are saying it's much better and battery is greatly improved compared to previous iOS 26 versions. So it looks like we finally got stability right after they announced iOS 27. But at least it seems like it's finally fixed for those that want to stay on iOS 26 throughout the next year. With iOS 27, I'm fairly confident it's going to be quite good. iOS 27 Beta 1 is surprisingly fluid and snappy, especially for a first beta and even breathing new life into older devices. However, it's heavily bogged down by an exceptionally long indexing process that causes temporary battery drain and slowdowns. However, once indexing finishes, everything gets a lot better. Some are still waiting for Siri, of course, which can be frustrating, but given this is the first beta of iOS 27, it makes me much more confident in Apple that the experience is going to improve even more over the summer betas. So I can't wait to see what it's like in maybe beta 2. Once the public beta is out, it should improve greatly. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And so that's everything with iOS 27 Beta 1. We should have iOS 27 Beta 2 soon, iOS 26.6 Beta 3 soon, and hopefully iOS 26.5.2 as well. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below and how your overall iOS experience is going right now. And of course, as always, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.